All right, the first thing that you need to do with this unit is check your calculator. All right, at the top of your calculator, it should say DEG at the very top, right here, next to the battery symbol. If your calculator, like this other one I'm about to show you, has RAD, you're going to get nothing but wrong answers. Raise your hand if your calculator says RAD and get your teacher to fix that. Okay? RAD, you will get all the wrong answers. You do not want to be taking this unit with the wrong calculator setting. Okay? So make sure that a teacher fixes it for you if it does not have DEG for degrees at the top. Okay, next. The word we're going to use for trig, all right, is SOHCAHTOA. Doesn't actually mean anything, it's made up. It's an easy way to remember these things. Well, we're trying to remember the actual words. We've got sine, cosine, tangent, okay? Sine, cosine, and tangent. And sine is opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over the adjacent. All right, so how do we even use this? All right, so if we remember way back when, what does hypotenuse mean? Hypotenuse means that if I have a right angle, the side that is opposite my right angle, this side right here is my hypotenuse. Okay, so the first thing to make things easy for myself, actually this yellow doesn't seem to be showing up much in the video, so I'm going to go ahead and find my right angle and then highlight my hypotenuse on all these triangles so that it makes it real easy for myself to identify that side, because you need that side identified for everything. All right, so here's my right angle, go across from that, that's your hypotenuse. Here's my right angle, go across from that, that's your hypotenuse. Okay. Just set all of your triangles up. All right, so now that we have all of our hypotenuses set up, I'm going to go back to page 1 of the notes, okay? And then from here, I can go ahead and use this information up here, all right? So first question, it says, what is sine of angle A? Well, angle A is right here, okay? So then sine said opposite over the hypotenuse. So what side is opposite of my angle A? So I go from my angle A, opposite that is my 4. So that is 4. All right. Hypotenuse was whatever I put in green, that was my 5. So this is the opposite, this is the hypotenuse for angle A. All right. Now, next it's what about for sine of angle B? Well, now if we go angle B over here, then opposite angle B is this 3. All right, so we're no longer talking about this being the opposite. Now we're talking about angle B. So now my opposite is 3, and my hypotenuse is still 5. Okay? So the hypotenuse never changes. Okay? It's always going to be whatever's opposite your right angle. All right? But then talking about which side is opposite, you have to use this angle right here as reference. Opposite angle A is 4, so 4 goes up there. Opposite angle B is 3, so 3 goes right there. Okay? So that's how you get your trigonometric ratio. All right. Now next, we're going to use this to actually find a measurement. Okay. So first of all, the angle that they are giving me this time, they're actually put an angle right here. So here's the angle. Okay. So then I have to go in and say, hey, what else is filled in? Well, the other side that's filled in is the side that is opposite that angle. And the other side that's filled in is the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse, which one of these ratios was that? That was sine. Okay? So sine of 37, because that's the angle, is equal to x, is what was opposite, over 18 for the hypotenuse. Okay? All right, now how do we get x by itself? Well, x divided by 18. How do I just get just x? We'll have to multiply by 18 on both sides. So here we go. X by itself is this. All right, so this is what I'm going to put into my calculator. 18 times sine of 37 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and say 18, okay? And then to do sine, I have this trig button that's right next to the 7 button, right? I'm going to click the trig button. From the trig button, it's going to give me some options, okay? So sine was the top option right there, and that's what I said what I was going to do. So click that option, and then I'm put 37 degrees here. So, oops. There we go. Okay. So overall, my side x should be 10.8 something. Okay. And it says round to the nearest hundredth, so that means 2 decimal places. So 10.83. Oops. 10.83. Is there a unit of measure? No. So it's just 10.83 units. Okay? That's her final answer. Okay? That's x. Alright, moving on. Cosine. Cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. What does adjacent mean? Adjacent means it's actually touching. Alright, it's not opposite, it's touching. Alright, you only have 2 options. Is it either opposite or is it touching? It's touching. Alright, so first question, cosine of angle A. So here's my angle A. What's touching my angle A? Well, I have 2 options. I have my 5 and my 3. But my 5 has a special name of it. That 5, I highlighted in green, that's my hypotenuse. That goes on the bottom. So the side that's not the hypotenuse, that's the adjacent side. That's touching my angle A. So 3 over 5. Cosine of A is 3 over 5. Okay? Now cosine of B. Here's my B. What's touching my B? Well, I've got 5 and 4 is touching my B. Which one of these is the adjacent side that's not the hypotenuse? Well, this 5 that I put in green is the hypotenuse. I looked at my right angle, opposite was the hypotenuse, right? So this is the hypotenuse that's already taken, so this is the adjacent side that's not the hypotenuse. So 4 over 5. Now let's go ahead and use that in order to actually solve a problem. This time they didn't tell us what we're using, instead they just put, again, an angle right here. Alright, so this is the angle. What side is filled in? Oh, it's the side that's touching the angle. So this is the adjacent side. And the side that's green, this was the hypotenuse. The other side, opposite this angle, has nothing there. See? There's nothing filled in there. So we're not going to be using that. We're just using this adjacent over the hypotenuse. Alright? Adjacent over hypotenuse, when I go back up here, adjacent over hypotenuse, that's cosine. So cosine of 42 is equal to, you're always going to put cosine and then whatever the degrees are, and then on the other side equals, see we have equals, that's when you put this adjacent over hypotenuse. So x over 15. Now, I I want to just get x by itself. So just the same how we did up here with sine, x over 18. How did we get rid of the 18? Well, we multiplied both sides by 15. So we're going to multiply both sides by 15. That gets rid of that 15 on the bottom. So now we have just the x by itself. So 15 trig. This time instead of sine, I'm going to go to cosine. I'm going to put my angle. And I get 11.147. Okay, so oops. So 11.147. Nearest hundredth means 2 decimal places. So this 7 is big enough to push that 4 up. So I'm going to go ahead and call that 11.15. That is what your x is equal to. Okay? All right. Moving on. Tangent. Okay? Tangent, when I go back up here, tangent says it's opposite over adjacent. So not the hypotenuse. So I need the two pieces that are not the hypotenuse for the tangent. Okay? So I have angle A. Which side is not touching angle A? We have 3 and 5 are both touching. So 4 is not touching it. That is the opposite. Okay? So that's opposite. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite and then adjacent means what's touching. Well, 3 and 5 are both touching. And I said for tangent, we're not dealing with hypotenuse, just opposite and adjacent. So we're not going to deal with this 5. So adjacent, 3. Okay? Tangent of angle B. Here's angle B. Tangent is when we had SOHCAHTOA, right? Opposite over adjacent, so tangent of angle B. B, opposite of that is 3. Let's see, opposite is 3. And then adjacent, that's not my green, is this 4. Okay, so those are the ratios. All right, now instead of just having ratios, let's actually solve. Okay. Okay, so we have an angle right here. Then what's filled in is the side that's opposite that, so I'm going to put an O to say opposite. The other side that's filled in is the adjacent side. Notice that this hypotenuse is blank, nothing's there, so I have to use these two. And when I use opposite over adjacent, that's tangent. So SOHCAHTOA, this toe, that's my tangent part, right? So tangent of 29 is equal to x divided by 10. All right, now, again, I don't want this 10 on the bottom, so what to do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 10 on both sides. That gets rid of that. Put it in your calculator. So 10 tangent 29 5.54. So okay. All right, so now let's practice this just a tiny bit more. This time, they did not tell me what I'm using. I don't know, sine, cosine, tangent. I have to figure that out by myself, all right? So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do in order to figure this out is I'm going to write down SOHCAHTOA. That way it's very easy for me to kind of tell, all right? And at the prep I did before, I already highlighted my hypotenuse, right? So first thing here, I've got this angle. All right, and then from that angle, I'm just going to go ahead and mark. This is the side that's opposite. This is the side that's adjacent. This is the hypotenuse. All of these, I'm just going to go ahead and take my angle, go opposite that. That's my opposite. This is the green side was the hypotenuse, and the other side was adjacent, right? Go to your angle, go to the side that's opposite, put an O, My green side is my hypotenuse, and the other side is your adjacent. Okay? Here's the angle. This side is the opposite. Green side is hypotenuse, other side is adjacent. Here's the angle. Side's opposite. Side is hypotenuse. This side is adjacent. Here's my angle. That's the side that's opposite. Green is hypotenuse, and the other side's adjacent. All right, from here I'm going to look at each one of these, and I'm going to go ahead and see which pieces actually have numbers on them. Notice that my H does not have numbers on it. So it's just my A that has a number on it, and my O, well, it has an X, but yeah, X counts. So my O and my A have a number on it. Okay, this one. My O has something written on that side, and my H has something written on that side. A, nothing's written on this side. All right, the angle is inside. I'm talking about outside on the actual side of the triangle. No numbers are filled in there. Okay, here, this triangle, my A has something on it, and my H has something on it. Okay. Here on this triangle right here, my O has that 43 on it, and my H has that X on it. A has nothing on it. It's completely blank. Okay. Here, my O is completely blank. My H has that X on it, and my A has that on it. And then here, my O has something on it, and my A has something on it. Okay? So now for each of these, I'm going to go ahead and write down what we're dealing with. So O and A, where do we see that? We see that with next to T, TOA, right? So T, tangent, 53, is equal to O divided by A. So my O has an X, my A has a 24. Okay? O and H, where do you see that together? O and H. Oh, right here with my S, sine, right? So sine of 51 is equal to X over 63. O divided by H. Okay? All right, A and H, where do we see that together? With my C, cosine, right? So I have to say my A divided by my H. So cosine 28 is equal to A, which is the X, divided by my H, which is 44. Okay? All right, and bottom ones. O and H. So let me rewrite a SOHCAHTOA. So O and H, I see that with my S. So sine 63 equals O, which is 43, H equals X. Okay? This time I have A and H. A and H goes with my C, cosine. So cosine of the angle, 41, is equal to A, which is 48, divided by my X. And last one, I have O and, oh, I highlighted the wrong thing, O and A. All right, so I have O and A, which is tangent. So tangent of 27 is equal to O divided by A. So O is 101 divided by A, which is X. Okay? All right. Now from here, in order to solve, on these problems, we have 24 on the bottom, all right, X divided by 24. So in order to get rid of my 24, I just need to go ahead and multiply both sides by 24, okay? So multiply both sides by 24, that cancels that out, so 24 times that. Multiply both sides by 63 here, that cancels that out, right? So X is equal to that. Multiply both sides here by 44. That cancels that out. So this is what we end up with there. All right, on these bottom ones over here, notice that here we have x on the bottom. All right, so first, in order to solve, we need to get x to the top. All right, so to get x to the top, we multiply x over here, okay, and then now we want to get rid of the sine 63 so that we get x by itself. So x times sine 63 equals 43. Oh, well, I can just divide by sine 63 because when I multiplied both sides by x to get rid of the x on the bottom, that got rid of that, right? So now divide by sine of 63 to get rid of sine 63 on both sides. All right, so when you have your x on the bottom, what you end up with notice that the way it looked at first, all right, cosine of 41 equals 48 divided by x. All you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and swap. All right, when your x is on the bottom, you're going to swap. That's what we ended up with here. That's how we did that there. We just swapped. So x is equal to 48 divided by cosine of 41. And here, x is on the bottom, so I need to swap. And by swap, I mean don't swap it with the 27. Swap it with the whole thing here. So x is equal to 101 over tangent 27. Okay? All right, now we did the setup on all of these. We're only going to like plug in 2 on the calculator because you already know how to do most of it. I showed you how to do it on page 1. All right, so let's pick our 2. Let's go ahead and do problem number 2 and problem number 5 on the calculator. Actually, 2 and 5 works. All right, so we have our x is equal to 63 times sine of 51. So 63, then I put my trig, sine 51, enter. And I get 48.96, and I'm going to go ahead and assume I'm still rounding to the nearest hundredth, so x is equal to 48.96. Okay? All right, so problem number 5. Plug this into the calculator to solve for x. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 48 divided by trig, cosine 41. All right, so the main thing when you plug it into your calculator, you want to make sure that it looks the same way that it looks over here. 48 is at the top, cosine 41 is at the bottom. Yes, that looks right. Okay, so then x is equal to 63.6. Okay, now let's do a little common sense check too. All right, the x I'm solving for is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is the longest side, right? So is 63.6, is that longer than here? Yes, it is. So yes, that's a very likely answer, okay? Now, the thing where you would know you have a wrong answer is if you're like, oh, I'm solving for hypotenuse, which says it should be the longest side, and you get an answer like 30. There's no way that could be correct, because if this side's 48, then your hypotenuse cannot be 30, because 30 would not be longer than 48, okay? All right. So that's how you do that, and good luck with it. You guys I know you're going to do great.